Next up on the number one tee.
Don't miss the Women's 2023 Dallas Shootout Golf Tournament. October 15 to 17 at Stonebriar Country Club, you'll enjoy jam-packed days with organized competitive golf, food, entertainment, shopping, and over $20,000 in cash and prizes. We'll tee off with a massive opening party featuring music, dinner, and dancing, including a golf apparel shopping extravaganza. Warm-up sessions with top golf fitness guru Andrew Hannon. Instructional clinics with pro golfers Lisa Longbow, Kathy Hartwood, and Erica Larkin. Superstar DJ MC Casey Campbell, celebrity guests, and more. This will be epic. The Women's 2023 Dallas Shootout Golf Tournament, October 15 to 17 at Stonebriar Country Club in the heart of Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas. 3 days competing, meeting other women who love golf, and getting in on the action. Limited spaces available, so book today as a single or pair. To find out more, visit DallasShootout.com. That's DallasShootout.com.
Well, hello, and welcome back to your virtual tea time. My name is Tori, and I'm your host. And today we have Beth Yahara joining us again from Titleist, golf ball fitting expert. Like the expert, though.
Well,
like
I love
the
it.
Beth. The Beth.
It is great to be back. It is so much fun. So great to be back in Arizona to be face to face with Tori.
And you're here. Titleist is here for Desert Classic. And I mean, there is a lot going on. So what were you just up to before you ran into the studio a little frazzled?
Flew in last night, but I had to go up to Johnny Mac's house because we send in our stuff. And I said, can I send in some stuff? And he's like, yeah, sure.
And Johnny Mac is the Titleist rep here in Arizona. I mean, he is the Titleist guy.
He's the title. Well, there are two in Arizona. Right. So you've got Johnny Mac and John Parker.
So
they're both Johns, both rock stars. So super awesome. So so John lives here. And so instead of sending everything to a hotel and them looking at me and going, what did you just send? I sent it to Johnny Mac and he had to say that. He said, well, when you said a few things, I thought you meant a few things, right? But the tents and the tables and all the balls. And so, it's quite a big shipment that we ship in, but there's quite a lot of ladies. So
there is 220 ladies to be exact. Awesome. And then we have another 50 coming to the beginner golfer night on Tuesday night. So that is all sitting in Johnny Mac's garage right now. And you were just there.
Yeah. We actually normally I will get a minivan, but they didn't have one last night. I'm a master packer. So we actually got quite a bit in to the rental car. And then Drew, who is in town as well, put the rest in his car. So it's
you guys are heading out to the shopping night to set up your tents there, and then obviously we're having a big Titleist tent, multiple tents on Monday too.
It's gonna be fun. So tonight, shopping night, right? So our goal is to chat with everybody, right? Yeah. So we want to make sure that everybody is playing the right ball for them, right? And there's so many myths, so many rumors out there about golf balls. I mean, we talked about women's golf balls, and we talked about what does this golf ball do? What does that golf ball do? So our staff will be there tonight to help everyone that's playing in the event understand which golf ball to play and why. I think the big key is the why.
Yeah. So what's the biggest comment that you think you're going to hear, or that you do hear a lot out there that you always have to clear up?
Yeah. I mean, I think on the whole, if we take gender out of everything, we definitely hear swing speed, right? Swing speed. Well, I have a slow swing speed, or I have a fast, mostly it's slow.
Or what ball is best for me because my swing speed is not that high.
Exactly. So my swing speed is, and they give me the number and I look at them, I don't care, right? Because swing speed doesn't matter. And so I think that's the one key that everybody, no matter your age, your gender, what your handicap is, swing speed is not the key, because we could both have the same swing speed, but we have different things that we need to help supplement our game. Does that make some sense? So you may hit it high, I may hit it low. Well, we have a ball to fix that, right? Yeah. And so that we have at least to help, right? And so this evening we're going to try to talk to all the players and give them a dozen of the golf ball that, just in conversation, what we think will best fit their game.
Yeah.
But obviously, we don't, it's a big field, so I don't get to hit shots with everybody where we mostly would love to do, so we could show you the numbers. But we're looking forward to talking to everybody tonight.
Well, and you have that golf ball selector tool on the website too. And so I imagine it's the same kind of questions that you're asking the players.
It's very similar, right?
So what kind of questions are they?
So this selector tool is great. And we actually, your field did go through the selector tool. So the results were pretty interesting because they did come out with some balls that we have them here this evening, but I will not be giving them out. Right. So I love Velocity. It's a fantastic ball. And when we played, it is a great golf ball and it suits a great market. But if you're ultimately looking to play your best, we're going to try to help you give you a product that is going to ultimately help you play better.
So I'm going to back you up here because then I want to say well, why do you make lesser golf balls if you really want the player to be in one of these other options?
Yeah.
Why do you make the Velocity then if you really want them to have the best game possible? And in order to do that, they should, a better ball would be one of these.
Yeah. So I would love to have a Maserati, right? But price point sometimes doesn't dictate that, right? So that's kind of where we make really 3 tiers of golf balls.
Okay.
And price is definitely a factor, right? So that is going to be that lower tier price ball. It could have very affordable, right? But in that tier, Titleist makes the best product, right? Then if you go up another tier, a little bit more expensive, still going to be the best product. So their goal is to always provide you with a product that fits your price point or color, right?
Yeah.
So pink is obviously an option, blue, red. So there's different choices out there. And so that's why we make different levels, I would say, of golf balls, right? So to provide either a color choice, price point choice, or a feel choice, right? Sometimes there's just a sensation that people like when they hit the golf ball, and that we can achieve that through a different price point as well.
So what are some of the other questions then that you're going to be asking the players tonight? Are you asking them, do you like the feel of a hard ball or softer ball? Or
that'll be fun because actually that's one I usually save for the clinic. So I'm going to save the what feel do you like for the introductory clinic, right? So we're going to hit some shots where we talk about what does feel like, right? Because that's like temperature. Well, do you like 70 degrees or do you like 100 degrees? There's no right or wrong answer. And so when somebody says, do you like feel? I don't know what your sense of feel is, right? So that's a tough one. But we'll ask them, what ball do you normally play? So that's always a question. Okay, where are you coming from? Where's your head at as far as your golf ball education or, knowledge? Where do you hit the ball high or low? And that's a tough one, right? What flight that their typical ball is at, because you may play with the players that you might be the highest flighted player in the group, right? But then if you play with other players, you're the lowest player in the group, right? As far as flight. So that's where we start to kind of question the players and what their shot shape is. Do you have a cut or a draw? Or in some cases, does it go to the left? Does it go to the right? Because some players don't even know that terminology just yet.
And how do people typically answer that question of what does your ball flight look like as far as height is concerned? Because I would imagine, just like you said, I mean, if you're golfing with the same people all the time, maybe your ball flight is higher than theirs, but it's kind of on the lower side as far as, in general. So how do people answer that question typically?
That's a tough one, right? Because you don't know. And unless you have the numbers, which that's why we like fitting on TrackMan, right? So that's the ultimate guide is, okay, the numbers give you what we're talking about. So this is high or this is low. But judgment call, typically women don't hit the ball as high as, let's say, a man does, right? Just because it comes down to speed. But that's not how to choose a golf ball, because there's a lot of women that do still hit it high, right? But so we'll talk them through the process, like what does high look like, what does low look like, shot shape, what feel they're used to playing, because we don't want to take someone that's typically playing a softer feeling golf ball, let's say, and then put them into, we're going to talk about it, but left dash, right? Which is the hardest feeling golf ball you can get. So, we want to kind of listen to them, understand what their kind of golf knowledge is, and then guide them in the right direction. But ultimately, what we're going to give them, and whatever ball that we choose for them this evening, it's going to come down to the cover of the golf ball. The cover of the golf ball is, in my opinion, the most important part of the golf ball, because it is the brakes of the golf ball. That is what makes the golf ball stop on the greens. So,
and that is important because We don't want our golf ball running off the back of the green.
Oh, can you imagine hitting a good shot? At least do your best to get it to stop, right? So there's nothing worse feeling of hitting a good shot, watching it hit next to the pin and going off the back of the green.
So golf balls that are lesser quality, less expensive, can they stop? Like, how are they going to be able to stop on the green as much, or where's the comparison?
Yeah. So when you look at those different tiers of golf balls, right? So what really defines the difference in the tiers is the cover. And what it really breaks down to is the cover material, right? So the softer the cover material, the better those grooves can interact with the cover. The harder it is, the less interaction, and then for the cheaper it is, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just the quality of the cover. So the softer it is, Titleist makes a very special, it's called thermoset cast urethane. Mm-hmm. Big word for it is awesome, right? So it gives you the best chance to interact with those grooves of the club, to interact with the cover, to make the ball stop. So think of the cover as the brakes. And so no matter what we give you, what the players get tonight, they're going to get a golf ball that has the best brakes, the best stopping power.
And we're talking full swing, 100, 150 yards out and just chipping the ball.
So that's a great point, because there are actually two types of stopping power, right?
Okay.
So we use in the golf world, we use the word spin, right? So you hear, I got some spin on that, or what, but when it comes to short game, so anything really, around the green, that 50 yards and out where you may miss a shot and you have to recover, right? Try to get up and down. That comes from the cover. You start to get fuller golf swings, then that comes from the core. And that's where it gets confusing, because they use the word spin in both categories. Now, Pro V1, Pro V1X, obviously, are two flagship balls, AVX included. They all have the same cover. So people are like, well, what is that? So which one should I pick now? Yeah. Right? So what is that? Have we decided? No, because then now we have to look at the core, which is the engine of the golf ball, to decide when you talk about shots from 100, 150 yards coming into the green, that comes from the core.
Okay, so let's go over the differences then between Pro V1, Pro V1X, and AVX, and then we'll get into the left dash and left dot and all that new things coming out. All
the new fun toys, right? So what the goal is, right? And you have those three models, right? The Pro V1, Pro V1X, AVX, they're all going to give you the best short game control. And we start at the green and we work our way backwards, right? Because everybody needs short game, but everybody has different swings. Everybody attacks the ball differently, has different, whether, height, like we talked about, different flight characteristics. So the difference between Pro V1, Pro V1X, and AVX is going to be flight, feel, and spin.
Okay.
Those are the three flagship differences. So we talk about flight. It's exactly that. How high does the golf ball get? And X is going to give you the highest ball flight.
So if your ball flight's on the lower side,
right,
then you would suggest, one of the suggestions would be maybe looking into Pro V1X, because the ball will go higher.
It will naturally go higher. Yeah. So the dimples are there, right? So there's dimples on a golf ball. So you've got, like I said, that is the wings of the golf ball, if you really want to kind of look at it that way. So the wings of the Pro V1X allow that golf ball to achieve really a higher ball flight downrange. Whereas the Pro V1, the dimple pattern on that golf ball, and the spin, right? But really is going to allow a more mid-flight golf ball. Whereas AVX is a lower flight golf ball. So that's how you break it down. You've got your high flight ball, mid-flight ball, and low flight ball. And then we're going to pair that up wherever you need help. So if you need to hit it higher, we're going to pair you up with that golf ball that does go higher. If you need to hit it lower, we're going to pair you up with that golf ball that goes lower.
And you said AVX has the lowest?
Lower. Ball. So it's going to have a lower ball flight, especially with the driver.
So why would anyone want that ball?
Some players hit it high.
Like
right?
Too high?
There is such a thing as too high. Yeah. So not a lot, right? So I think there's more players that err to the side where they need more height, right?
Yeah.
But second question, right? Or second thing we'll look at is, well, what kind of feel do you like, right? So that's the second difference that differentiates them. You're going to find the X does have a little firmer feel, right? Pro V1, a little softer, and AVX does have the softest sensation when it comes off your hands.
Okay. So a woman out there might be playing the AVX and her ball flight is still on the lower side, but she can say, well, I just really like that soft feel.
And that's fantastic because guess what? You got still the best breaks that you could possibly have around the greens, right?
So, but you wouldn't kind of nudge her a little bit to go towards that Pro V1X?
We absolutely, right? So that's what we could do is I love to show people the numbers, right? So, and I love to hit them side by side because sometimes you don't, when I tell you that it feels a little bit more firm, again, what does that even mean, right? So when people, one of the biggest, unfortunately, myths that they tell golfers, especially women, when they go into a shop, right, is that you need a soft ball. Right. We hear you need soft, you have a slow swing speed, you need a low compression. That's also the word that comes out all the time. So what does that mean? Right. So what they're really telling a person is you need a softer feeling golf ball, because the softer a golf ball feels doesn't mean that you hit it further. It doesn't mean that it's going to stop better on the greens, right? So it's such a confusing topic that unfortunately a lot of people that are actually selling the golf balls don't really understand that topic either, right? And they're passing kind of myths down to these ladies. So we would nudge them into the Pro V1X. It is the number one ball on the LPGA Tour. And so that's obviously a tremendous field of women tonight. So we'd rather compare them to the LPGA than the PGA players. But it is the number one ball on the LPGA. So
is the Pro V1 the number one ball on the PGA?
You know, it depends on the years. Right. So I think last I had heard it was 50-50. And it depends on who's out there playing, what they're looking for, right? What their preferences are. And so some players will still play a golf ball from a past generation. Right. So the tour players have access to a few more golf balls, including left dot and left dash.
Okay, let's talk about these because why did these two, I mean, they're brand new balls, right? It's a totally different concept or?
I love that question because they're actually not, right? So these are the two oldest golf balls in what we'll call the Pro V1, Pro V1X family that are on the market currently.
So left dash and left dot have always been around?
They have always been around. So they've been what they have always called FTOs, right? So in golf ball language, that's for tour only. So in 2013, which is when the left dot came out, right? There was a need for a lower spin Pro V1 at the time. And so that's how that golf ball came to fruition, is that golfers said, you know, I'm sure at some point said, can you make me this golf ball? Or Titleist wanted to try this golf ball, right? They do a lot of testing on, hey, well, how can we make things better? And so that golf ball it's the recipe, let's call it, from 2013. Right? Why do we have so many different ones, right? So left dot is a 2017 generation golf ball. And the way you tell the difference, right? So I'm saying these dates, how do you even know when you pick up a golf ball, especially if you find it, right? Like you may be playing behind some players and they're spraying balls all over the place and you pick it up and you go, that doesn't look like my ball that I normally play. The way you tell the year, so the born on date really of a golf ball, comes from what we call the sidestamp. So it's the arrow that's on the side of the golf ball. And they're all different because a 2021 Pro V1 is different than a 2023 Pro V1. But they're both called the Pro V1. So we have to stamp them differently for the USGA.
Interesting. So the arrow is always different every 2 years.
Every 2 years. Yep. So you're going to look at AVX, which is the current generation AVX tonight. We'll have a different arrow than the 2023 Pro V1. And the reason is because AVX, they're all made in Massachusetts, right? There's two plants in the world, one in Thailand, one in New Bedford, that produce this particular golf balls. And so they can't produce them all in the same years. So Pro V1 and Pro V1X are odd years. So 21, 23, 25, whereas AVX is going to be 20, 22, 24. So that's why they have the different stamp lines.
Okay, so we have to go back to left dash.
Left dash. Let's do left dash.
Okay. So what? But first, it's Pro V1X left dash.
Correct.
And Pro V1 left dot. There's no such thing as Pro V1X left dot.
No.
Okay. So what? And you're saying so these are basically balls that have already been made, but they they're the 2013, 2017 versions.
There's golfers fall in love with things, right? So they do have where those, and why are the golf balls different? They're different because of characteristics, right? Flight, feel, and spin. So that year was a popular year for that golf ball.
And you had a lot of pros saying, I want that ball. I don't want your 2015. I want that 2013 version.
Correct. That ball just suited them, right? It suited their game. And that's why it's so important to really be fit for a golf ball, because we could help find the golf ball that suits your game. And so that ball still suited their game. They still enjoyed the feel, the sound, the flight, all those characteristics. And so that's what's happening. So left dash, 2017, it's a great golf ball. It is it's in that Pro V1, Pro V1 X family, we'll call it. So they're all in the same family, which means they all share the number one thing is short game control, right? So ultimately they're all going to have fantastic short game control. But whereas Pro V1 X is going to be the highest flight and the most, like you said, spin or stopping power coming into the green, the Pro V1 X left dash, so it actually has a little dash next to the P, that's what makes it called left dash, is going to have lower spin with those full shots coming into the green. Now, what does that even mean, right? Like high spin, low spin, what does that mean? It means when you make your swing, you put spin on the golf ball, or else that golf ball wouldn't get in the air, right? So some players put more spin, some players put less spin, right? So if you hit behind somebody and they've created these monster divots, or you see them on the golf course where like they're 3 feet deep, right? That may be a player that added a lot of spin to his shots. So therefore, to make him, we'll call it optimal, we need to take some spin away, right? Whereas you or me, right, for example, I take a very shallow divot, so I need to add more spin, right? And so that's where both are high flight, but they're going to enable us to give you more optimal results, whether by either adding spin to your full swing shots or taking it away. Now, does that kind of make some sense?
It makes some sense, but it still is, I'm thinking of the listener out there that's still like, well, I still don't know what ball is best for me. And so even going through, like, say they don't have the patience or the time to go actually get fitted for a golf ball, that's when they would go on that golf ball selector online. But then let's talk about how easy it is to get a fitting done. Because even as we're explaining Pro V1 X, Pro V1, and then left dash, left dot, AVX, it's still very confusing as to what's best for me.
It is. Now, you will, in typical pro shops, when you walk in, you can't purchase all the product that we just talked about, right? So you will only really see those 3 flagship balls, the Pro V1, Pro V1 X, and AVX. Those fit the majority of the players. So that is the key. So that is the takeaway, that yes, we have all different options. And if you're really going to delve into the left dash or the left dot, try to find a fitter, right? Talk to your local golf professional. They can guide you in the process. They know your game, so they can ask you. But looking at the numbers on TrackMan is always the key, right? Because I can look at somebody, even though I've been doing this so many years, and go, he must be spinny. But then look at the numbers and go, no, right? So it all comes down to the numbers on TrackMan. But it's very confusing. Stick to the top 3. Right.
So why put left dash and left dot out there if they're not really available? So
dot is more of a custom option that comes through our team, right? Or would come through Johnny Mac or something, one of the reps or one of our fitting teams. Dash, it's a popular golf ball. So it is in stores.
It is.
You can purchase that, right? So typically maybe they won't keep it right next to the Pro V1 X because the boxes are similar and it kind of gets confusing. And then again, talk to the local golf professional. They know your game, or they could help guide you through the process as well. As far as, well, how high do you hit it? Are you having trouble pulling? If a golfer has trouble, let's say it hits the green and it spins backwards, right? Let's say on a 9-iron, it hits and it's coming backwards off the green. That's a spin issue, right? So that's where, for your listeners, they're not really going to have that issue, right? So that's where take that ball out.
It's an outlier. Like if I have if I'm hitting an 80-yard sand wedge, I might have some spin on it, but it still is not so volatile. The spin is never so volatile on my pitching wedge, 9-iron, or any long irons that I'm like, this needs to get fixed. I
No.
mean,
But there are a lot of players out there that does happen to.
even women.
Not as many women, I would say, as men.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it boils down to speed.
Yeah.
Right.
And again, I don't want to just have the men versus women talk, but I just want to say, most women don't have that much spin on the ball.
We just don't have the speed. We're not built. Right.
Mhm.
So it's the same thing if we were both go run a 50-yard dash. Right.
Yeah.
So chances are the men are going to outrun us because
Mhm.
they just have different muscles, different.
Exactly.
They just can create different speeds than we can.
Mhm.
And so that is part of the speed issue. Right. So, but golf ball wise, Pro V1, Pro V1X, AVX, they're going to fit the very, very fast majority of the players out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Pro V1, Pro V1X, and AVX are all made in New Bedford, Massachusetts. And you can take a tour of the facility.
If you've never been there, it's so much fun. I'll be celebrating my 7-year anniversary in May, and I am still a baby as far as an Acushnet staff member.
Really?
The people that have been, you go in and they've been there 20, 25, 30 years. It's fantastic. They know everything about the product. They know everything about the town. So it's a must. They'll take you through the factory, through the plant, and show you how they're made. And then, at the end, typically, it's like Willy Wonka. You get to the very final stage where the golf ball hits the X-ray machine. And that's, for golf ball world, very cool, because it is either going to spit it out or it is going to allow it to go out to the floor, right? Out to be sold to everyone.
How many spit out? Is there
That's
a percentage?
I don't know that percentage. I should know that, but it's a very small percentage because through every stage of the process, over 100 checkpoints go into those golf balls.
Mhm.
So people say, well, why should I play a Titleist golf ball? Because when you're buying that, not only is it made, I love the fact that it's made in the US, but you have had so many Acushnet employees take that off the floor, check it, make sure it's good, and then you're getting the final product that is perfect.
Mm-hmm. Why have they kept that plant open and not moved it overseas? Is it a quality control thing, or is it because
that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that question.
Because the other balls do get manufactured in Thailand.
So there is 2 plants,
Okay.
right? So there's that specifically only make that thermoset cast urethane product, right? And it's more of a shipping issue on that, right? So they have to pump out, I think it's 600,000 golf balls a day, which is a lot of golf balls, right? So you have to have, and on that side of the world, they're able to take care of more shipping than as far as coming out of just the US constantly. So it's a shipment where they're able to get product into players' hands quicker. But there is 2 specific plants for the premium product, we'll call it. And then another plant that makes Velocity and Torsoft and True Feel. So all the other brands are made in another plant, right? So it's a fascinating, must go through it. Yeah. And they have a great shop. So that's a fun thing too. You get some great.
Let's talk about golf ball colors. Okay. So we touched on before on yellow. So all the premium balls do come in yellow, correct?
That is well, Pro V1, Pro V1X, AVX.
Yeah, they come in white or yellow.
Yes.
And then the other balls will come in, they have other options. Why yellow? And why not blue?
That's a good, I think yellow, it's called optic yellow, right? Okay. So they're made just a little bit differently than white. Whereas you're going to get the yellow has a yellow core with the casing layer, and then it has a clear coat and a sparkle. I call it the sparkle coat, right? So they do sparkle. If you look at them, they have kind of a sparkly sheen to them, but they can, when you hit them and they're downrange, they actually reflect off the sun. So they're easier to see. So much like in the tennis world, they went to yellow because it was easier to see the ball moving. Many players gravitate to the yellow just for a visual. Yeah. Being able to see the ball easier. Right. So that's pink is a little bit more difficult to see. I've played it a couple times for fun.
Yeah.
I have a hard time seeing pink. I have a hard time seeing red. but many people have that color preference, right?
Yeah.
But those colors are hard to see sometimes for some players.
But I remember you telling me something along the lines of, there's a lot of testing involved to make sure that even by changing the color, it still has the same quality as the white ball.
It does. Yeah. So that was, they put, before they roll the yellow out, right?
Mm-hmm.
It first came out with the AVX, was the first yellow product for the premium product. And there are millions and millions of dollars that go into making sure that if you're buying a Pro V1 and it's yellow, it's going to have exactly the same short game control. It's going to have exactly the same characteristics as the white version.
Mm-hmm.
So yellow, like I said, it's easier to see for many players, but you can, yes, they're different colors, but you're going to get exactly the same results in either ball that you choose, white or yellow.
Why are those velocities like a matte finish?
I think that's more of a preference. Right. It kind of goes down to what players like to play. It's a fun mat for, they do a lot of consumer testing as well. And
because that's really
like
the signature of that velocity is that they're all, no matter what color it is, it's that matte finish.
That I would say that the signature of the velocity, right? It's a fun micro brand of Titleist. So that's where I would go. Cause it actually, when I started with the company, it was shiny. They made a shiny pink and they made the shiny orange. And now the trend in the marketplace is matte finish. So that's where we see it right now. But you never know. Shiny may be making a turnaround. Yeah. Might come back.
I'm always, when I'm ordering flyers, I'm always a high gloss gal. Not a matte. I mean, what would you pick? Would you pick high gloss or
I'm
matte?
a gloss. Yeah. I'm a gloss. So the matte,
glossier, the better.
Even when you see cars on the road, that you see you can see, typical, and then the matte finish just doesn't, but
it seems like it's dirty.
There's just so many players that like it. So you never know. I know that they do a lot of customer testing. Yeah. So the consumer has its choice, but that's the whole point about golf balls, right? So now you've got velocity that you've got a choice. You can pick the blue version if you really want to.
Yeah.
That's your golf ball and own it, rock it. If you play a blue velocity, great.
Yeah.
Just know what it does. And that's always kind of when we go back to, if you're going to choose a golf ball, choose one and stick with it, because then you know what that golf ball will do day in and day out. On Tuesday, one of the questions I will ask the beginners in the clinic is, bring me 3 golf balls that you're about to go play with. And when they come with 3 different golf balls,
oh my God, they totally will.
We're going to have a chat about that. Right?
I'm going to stand there watching that. That's totally what they're going to do.
It's so much fun, because maybe you'll get a red one, and then maybe you'll get another brand, and then maybe you'll get a Pro V1, and you look at it's like a chocolate box of golf balls. And I'm like, well, do you know what it's going to do? No. Right. And so it's great, because then that's step 1, right? Pick a golf ball that suits your price point, right? I'm a Pro V1X yellow player because I can see the yellow better, right? And stick with it. And that will fit your game, and stick with it, because then golf course to golf course, you'll know, don't tee off with one golf ball and then you lose it and then choose a totally different golf ball. That's, oh my gosh, it's not going to make you the best player.
I have to call out my golf partner, Molly. So most partner tournaments, well, really everyone, I play with the same partner, Molly. And there are times she will grab a golf ball out of her bag. It looks like it was at the bottom of the lake. It will be like a random make, and I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing with that ball? And I'm like, so play the same ball.
Yeah. So let's talk water balls.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Let's talk water balls. Cause I was thinking about this last night, and I do a clinic every once. I'm lucky. Jennifer Hudson is fantastic. She is the best analogy for this, right? So you get to and a lot of the ladies, I'm sure, that play in the event, they're going to have their water ball bag, right? This bag of water balls that when they get to a lake, they're going to pull that sucker out.
Even coming up to this week at Papago, it's number 11. It's a par 3, 110 yards, and you got to go over water. There's no way. I mean, you can lay up, but if you're going for the green.
Oh, you're go for the green.
Yes.
So the analogy, right, that Jennifer uses is for her folks that ski, right? Okay, you're going skiing. Are you going to take your crutches up with you onto the ski slopes? Because you've already committed that, okay, if you pull out a water ball, well, this ball is destined to be wet, right? So you've already committed to the fact that, hey, I have some bad swings in me. This is going to be the bad swing. Don't do that. Say, pull out your new ball and say, you are not going to be in somebody else's water bag, right? Commit to that shot. And so when you do pull the balls out of the water, right? How long have they been there? That is always the question. You can have, I live in a golf course. I see the little men going and picking up the golf balls every night. They could be there for a day, or they could be there for weeks and get washed. And so that golf ball has lost all integrity, right? So you don't know.
At what point does it? Because obviously there are times that we hit it in the water and we're easily able to like fish it out. And replay that ball.
Yeah, I've got a scooper in my bag, fish them out, right? Yeah. So absolutely. But if you come a point where you see another golf ball, well, you don't know how long that golf ball's been sitting there, right? So they do actually, so the thermoset cast urethane, right? So back to that fancy cover that we make, but it is actually porous, right? So it actually absorbs water. And so if it's in water for, not like an hour, not, not where you hit it in the water and you can't recover it. Yeah. But over time, that golf ball will start to absorb water, and it does take on the weight and the bad characteristics that come with that. Yeah. Right. Does that make some sense? So don't play the water balls.
How about used balls?
That's another one that is a tough issue, because you don't know where they got those balls from, right? They could have been a lot. I live in Florida, and they just drain the lakes during the summer. So you're going to find a lot of those balls have been in the water for a long time, and they just lose that integrity.
And even if they're just spark. Sitting outside in rain or, dirt, and you find it there.
If you find it behind in the woods or something like that, right? You can look at it and say, okay, this is, generally, but again, you don't know what date that golf ball is from too, right? That could be a 2017 Pro V1 that somebody got when they retired, and they have cases of them and they're pulling that out. Well, it's not the same golf ball that you normally play on a day-to-day basis. Yeah.
So. I was talking to Bobby Flood a couple weeks ago about club fitting. Okay. Over at Titleist. And he said, and I asked him, I said, when do you know it's time to get fitted for clubs, or who should be getting fitted for clubs? And he said, if score matters to you, if you're in a spot in your little golf career, your golf journey, and score matters to you, you should consider getting fitted for clubs. Yeah. So is that the same for getting fitted for balls, or really committing to a ball?
So I would actually say for a golf ball, once you stop losing a lot of golf balls, right? So once, you're getting to a round, maybe you lose 3 a round. That's, in my opinion, 3-4 a round. That's part of the cost of playing the game, right? So it's time to start looking at that golf ball, because that can really help you. Like I said, there's nothing worse than hitting a great shot onto the green and finding it go off the green and maybe in the water behind the green. So I would say even beginners can benefit from playing a good golf ball, because it'll help them get better quicker. Yeah. And I think that's one thing that a lot of players, especially beginners, I'm looking forward to Tuesday. Yeah. Tuesday is going to be so much fun. Yeah. Because why wouldn't you play something that helps you, right? So if this golf ball is going to accelerate your ability to be better, do it, right? Do it early. Don't wait till, now I'm a 10 handicap. Now I can play a golf ball.
Now I'm worth it.
That's not the way to look at it. Like, can this ball help me be better? Yes. Start it right away, right? Get into it. Start doing it.
How long does a golf ball last? Let's say it doesn't hit a lot of cart paths. It doesn't go in the water. Minimal damage. Yeah. How long can you lose? Or how many rounds? You were about to see, play it till you lose it. That's always kind of my logic, right? Because unless you do hit a cart path, right? Or a tree, and it starts to scuff a little bit. So but we shoot golf balls out of cannons day after day, right? And if you go, the R&D department at Titleist is amazing. They are just brilliant. They do all kinds of things to golf balls that we would already not do. So the product that you're getting has been through torture, right? Yeah. But play anything till you lose it.
because you'll have lost it before it starts to get bad.
Exactly. Let's go into R&D a little bit. What's the most interesting thing that when you go back there and you see what they're working on? Because right now they just came out with the new Pro V1s, Pro V1Xs for 2023. I imagine they're already working on the 2025 model.
Yeah.
So what goes into that? What does it look like back there?
It is amazing, right? So not only are they going to work with the research team to find the best materials, find how they can tweak, improve the product, right? They're talking to tour players. They're talking to club pros. They're talking to great amateurs like yourself. Like, what would you like, right? Mm-hmm. What do you want to see? How could your golf ball be better? Mm-hmm. And so that's what's really exciting. When you go into R&T, they are, like I said, they're shooting the golf balls out of cannons. They're hitting them on the robots. When you go to Manchester Lane, they've got the Spider, which they're hitting chip shots with for the golf balls to
What's
test.
A Spider?
What
do you mean?
So I think it's called the Spider, but it's this short game robot that they hit short game shots with, right? Where you hear Iron Byron, which is a full swing tester of the golf balls, Iron Byron. But they've one designed Byron. Yeah.
Stop! I love that.
You never heard of Iron Byron?
No.
That's so it's everybody really in the industry uses it because you can adjust it, right? And so you get the same. It's a robot.
Yeah.
So they have a robot designed for short game because, again, not that I keep going back to short game control and short game, but that's where people get better, right? You can hit it a long way, but once you get around the green, that's the equalizer. So if you've got a little lady that only hits her drives 100 yards. Well, she can still, you've played in the tournaments with her. She can still out chip and putt the best of everyone.
Every time.
So every time, right? Down the middle. And you're like, I'm in the
Chipping
woods.
in a one putt.
She's, done. Yeah. Right. So it's not the power, but that's where, so the short game is the key. So it's not only that, but like you say, talking to the tour players. So, all right, what would you like to, what would you like? What can we do?
What do they say? Like, I wouldn't even know what to say if you came to me and were like, okay, we're really going to care about your opinion on how the 2025 golf ball is. I'd be like, I don't know.
Well, think about your game, right? Yeah. So that's like, okay, well, what would I need? And most players are going to say, I want to hit the ball longer, right? So you're going to get that. You're going to get that. That's always the goal. I want to hit it longer, right? So, but you're going to also find that I'd like a little softer feel, a little softer sound. So in the 23 version of the Pro V1X, you and I still have to do a ball fitting. I would love to hit shots with you. But if you compare the 21 versus 23 side by side, the sound and the feel are completely different.
Oh, they are?
Completely different. So that's where maybe they spoke to players, said, I'd like a little different sound or a little different feel to the golf ball. And so those are the kind of results. Or maybe greens are getting a little faster, right? Faster means more spin, or some players need. So it goes down to all those factors. And then they have, again, those balls that they have the dash and the dot and the star, right? So all those golf balls that they're trying to learn from on these most talented players in the world. And then say, oh, what if we put that into the next Pro V1 or Pro V1X? So it's very fascinating.
Okay. I just heard this story the other day. So hopefully it is something that you know about, but Bryson putting golf balls in water. What's he doing?
So you see him spray, right? The spray bottle.
Is that what he's doing? I don't know. I haven't watched Bryson in a while because he's not on TV anymore. So who knows?
Very true. So what happens, right? So especially, let's say you play on a dewy morning, right? And so, of which I am not a dew sweeper, but players play in the morning. And so what happens is that water actually breaks the barrier of the friction, right? So it gets in the way of those grooves interacting with the cover.
Okay.
Right? So short game wise, it definitely can affect that spin and control around the greens, right? Because it reduces the friction around the greens, right? So you're going to get less short game. Maybe hit and slide a little bit more, skid on the greens versus you hearing and seeing that golf ball spin, right? Does that make some sense? So he's testing really the conditions by spraying water. He's testing whether it's dew, testing rain. Same thing with a full swing, right? So you're going to have, it's going to affect the spin on a full shot as well. So that's why he's just kind of, the mad scientist that they call him. He's testing the conditions that he would see on the golf course. So that is a true thing, right? And the same thing with players, right? That are going to, let's say, go to Mexico, right? Mexico City.
Yep.
They're going to encounter different spin rates or different distances, right? Because of the elevation. Elevation is a big difference, right? That they're looking at as well. So
let's remind everyone what elevation does to the golf ball. I mean, so when you're higher up, when it's higher elevation, the ball will go farther.
Ball will go further. Yes. But I mean, that's, you're used to that, right? Mm-hmm. So you're playing in those conditions all the time. It's more, let's say, if then you came down to Scottsdale for the summer or the winter, that would make a change. But that's where it does change things, right? Humidity, another factor that's going to change what the golf ball does. Cold weather is going to change what the golf ball does. And people always ask this question, right? How does weather affect golf balls, right? Should I play a different golf ball in the summer versus the winter?
Good question.
No, right? So stick with the golf ball, stick with the golf ball that will work in every condition, right? But all golf balls are affected the same in those conditions, right? Does that make some sense? So you're in a pro, you are a Pro V1X player. So am I. They're going to be affected the same as a Pro V1 in cold weather. They're just not going to travel as far. Right.
Yep.
Then if you go to higher elevation, they're both going to travel further. Right. Yep. So they're both affected the same. And then people always ask the question, well, how should I keep my golf balls? Right. So
should you store them?
Should I store them in my trunk in Arizona in the summer? Right. So that question is no. Right. Yep. Try to keep the golf balls. You don't need to keep them in a refrigerator. Right. So just keep them in your closet. Keep them where you're not going to have really giant changes in temperature.
So extreme heat, no, we don't want the balls to be stored in that. How about extreme coldness?
Same idea, right? Okay. So same idea. You want to keep them more temperate, right? And then kind of in the middle. And once they're always going to, it's like chocolate, they're going to temper back, right? To their temperature, but you always want to try to keep them in that same state. Right. Because when it's all said and done, it's plastic, right? So the cover is plastic, the rubber in the center. So you always want to keep them in that controlled environment.
Yeah. All right. 2 more things. Let's talk about putting. When you talk about soft feel, hard feel, I instantly go to putting because that's where I feel it the most.
You should.
So what, and also when you're practicing, you usually have more control about the balls that you practice with on the putting green and on the chipping green. At ranges, you're pretty much whatever's there you have to use.
I love that.
And so, my suggestion is always to practice with the balls that you use, especially on the putting green. So what will have that harder? So the Pro V1X will have that harder feel coming off of that putter.
So what makes a golf ball feel different, right? Is the compression of the core. So the cores are all rubber nowadays. They used to be rubber bands. So back in the day when I was a kid, when the mowers would cut them open, you would see all the different rubber bands, right? And so they were wound to the compression, because that word always comes up to people. And you did used to have to match your swing speed up with the compression of the golf ball, because you did used to have to get to the center. Nowadays, they're all solid rubber. So when you cut those in half, they're all solid. But that word compression still lives on, right? And so many players still have that idea of what happened with the rubber bands back in the day, but the word compression only tells you how it feels. So tying back into feel, right? A low compression golf ball. So let's say we'll pick a number, 60 compression. That will feel softer than 110 compression. The big word is durometer, but this squishiness of the rubber, like how it feels when it hits your hands. And that's really you're feeling the rubber on the inside of the golf ball, right?
It's all just personal preference.
To answer, yes, X will feel more firm. Pro V1 will feel softer, and the AVX will feel the softest. Is there a right or wrong answer? No. Right. So if let's say, is a 70-degree day better than a 100-degree day? It depends on the player. Right. So it depends on what you like. So shorter swing speeds like slower swing speeds on your putt, right? So those short shots, you will tend to feel them more because it's coming into the ball slower.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas your driver, you don't probably pay attention or even notice the difference in the golf balls there, right? Because your swing is moving faster. So I love the point of practicing with the balls that you normally play with. Because think if you've just practiced chip shots and you watch them hit the green and you watch that first initial action with the green, it actually, the cover, that friction, that spin that you put on the golf ball allows it to slow down. Now, if you've been practicing with golf balls that don't have any spin to them, you would have seen more of a skid action. That golf ball is going to hit and more bound forward, right? So you've just practiced something that you're not really going to play on the golf course. So it's a must, especially, I love the putting, but I think chipping is way more important.
And also when you're practicing and you're seeing the reaction of these chip shots, whatever it's doing, it's like, it's storing in your head. So even if you're not consciously telling yourself, well, these are not the balls I'm using, you're going to go out on the course and think that whatever ball you use is going to have the same reaction, which that's not the case because you are using a completely different ball.
And especially, depending on which golf instructor you work with, right, too. So some may have a ratio formula that they use. Okay, if you carry it with a sand wedge, a 1-to-1 ratio or 1-to-2 ratio with the pitching wedge, right? Well, if you're using a ball that doesn't run the same, then you're not going to get the same results when you go to use the ball that you play on the golf course, right? So more lofted shots too. The bump and run aren't as you could still do anything with the Pro V1 and Pro V1X, right? But when you start needing to get the ball more lofted in the air, have it sit on the green closer to the pin, that's where you're really going to see how you have so many more different shots with a golf ball that has better shrinking control.
How seriously should we take the reaction of a range ball?
On the greens or
just like on the range?
On the full swing shots.
Yeah, you're on the
shots,
range. I mean, these balls get beaten every day.
They do. Yeah.
And some are more beaten than others. Like how much should we take the ball flight and how it's reacting from range balls?
That's a great question because those golf balls, right? So it depends on the range you're on. Right. So I was just at a golf course that had Pro V1Xs for their range balls.
Yeah.
Right. So then you can do equal 1-to-1 or I've had
even a Pro V1X, if it's Titleist range balls, even then they're getting hit so much.
They're going to start to see a little wear and tear.
Yeah.
Right. And so you'll see that the pros will start to turn those over. Right. When they start to look a little shabby, they start to lose a little life in them.
Yeah.
Right.
Do companies make balls specifically for the range?
They do. Yeah. So they're going to make whether it's a practice ball or that are designed to feel a little bit better. Right. Too. So in that case, most players like a softer feeling golf ball, just for preference, especially if they're beating 100, 200, 300,000 golf balls a day. And then, the covers are going to be where they could be a little bit more durable.
Do they have less flight? Like what's it called? Like restricted flight for range balls?
Some do. I've gone to some range, especially if you have a very small range and they make specific golf balls for, let's say, limited flight balls, right? So, but yeah, I mean, it's a tough thing because when you're practicing, you can't really gauge where that golf ball is really going and how really it's high and high it's really flighting. So it's a tough situation to practice on a range like that and then take it to the golf course, if that makes some sense. Yeah. Because in your mind's eye, where that ball hits, the window, we call it, that's a super important thing for players. And so for your listeners, when you strike the golf ball, that golf ball is going to launch into the air and it hits a certain window when your eyes finally look up. Right? At a certain point, your eyes look up. Where's my shot? Right? Yeah. That's what we call the flight window. And so that's where each golf ball is going to have a different flight window. Right. So that's where you're going to see kind of some players will say, that ball, when we get to changing the differences in the golf balls, year after year, sometimes they'll make the ball flight higher. The X's, since I started, has a much higher ball flight than now, right? Because the higher you hit it, sometimes the further it goes. And most players need a little bit more height. So, but sometimes that's gone now too high out of a player's window. Right?
Is that true? The higher you hit it, the further it goes.
till you get a certain point, right? It's like that water stream where you want to get it. And so it crests over. And that's what we do when we fit players. We want to make sure that they're able to reach that certain peak height and come into the green. So you want that golf ball, obviously the steeper it comes in, the better it's going to stop, right? If it's coming in like a shallow airplane, that ball's not going to stop on the green.
Yeah.
So again, that goes back to, okay, why do we make 3 different versions? Because some, like the Pro V1X, for example, will come in at a steeper angle. But you can I had a player the other day that actually was almost too high, right? So that's where if you've got the hose and that water hose is going straight up in the sky, it's actually kind of almost coming back at you, right?
It's not going as far as it could.
It's not reaching optimal, right? So we're all about optimal.
All right, let's cover the biggest myth of all, which is the lower the swing speed, then you should be using a low compression ball.
Yeah. Back to that old, I would say misinformation, right? I would say that is a huge myth. Everybody says, so many players that I talk to say, I need a soft golf ball, whether it's men or women, right? And they always go back to the fact that, well, I need to compress the ball. I have a slow swing speed. Take that out of your mind. That is not a factor anymore. They're not rubber bands, right? So look more at characteristics. Don't talk about your swing speed, because 2 slow swing speeds can have different character. 2 golf balls can do totally different things, right? So look at, all right, how high do I hit the golf ball? How much spin do I have on the golf ball, right? And what feel preference do I have? So it is a myth, and it does, because what does soft feel like? Like we go down to that whole soft test that we'll do on Tuesday, because you don't need to get to the center of the golf ball anymore. If you hit it 50 yards, you're fully compressing the golf ball, if that makes sense. So start looking out for, well, okay, I can compress the golf ball. I don't need this. What do I like as far as my feel is concerned now? Yeah. And then, well, how can the golf ball help me? Can it go higher? Can it go lower? Can I add spin? Can I take spin away? Those are really the questions. I think that instead of that playing a low compression, like I said, it's that number associated with feel, right? That 60 feels softer than 100. That's just a preference. So that has nothing technically to do with performance of a golf ball.
Beth, thanks for coming on
Tori,
today.
always good to see you.
I am. So again, Titleist has been involved in the Desert Classic for quite some time now. And ever since we golfed last August, I was like, well, Beth has to be at the tournament. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. I mean, I think every meeting we had, I was like, is Beth going to be there? I need Beth there.
It's going to be a blast. I'm looking forward to it tonight. We're going to have fun with the shopping event. Yeah. And it's going to be chaos. So I love organized chaos.
Me too.
And then we're going to do the close to the pin contest tomorrow.
I know. Tell us
on Monday.
That.
Excuse me, on Monday.
Yeah, Monday. Yeah, that is tomorrow. Holy shit.
I just don't know what day it is.
No, do you want me to start breaking out into a sweat right now?
I never know what day it is. So that's going to be so much fun. And then on Tuesday, we are going to do the close to the pin contest and then the beginners clinic. So that'll be, we'll have a good time. So bring questions, raise your hands, do everything you need to. So I'm looking forward to it. So thanks as we love being a part of women's golf. That is at Titleist. I think that the one thing that nobody ever mentions, which for the last fact, I'd love to mention.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that the head of the golf balls, the number one person at Titleist for golf balls is a woman.
Oh my God, I love that.
And nobody ever talks about that. And so Mary Lou is in charge. She runs the show and she is amazing. And she's a woman. So what a great role model to have working for that company. And there are so few women in the golf industry as a whole, but Titleist has one at the head of running the golf balls.
I love it.
And it's fantastic.
We are lucky to have you too, Beth.
Looking forward to it. We're going to have some fun.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Be sure to check out the show notes for all the details on today's show. If you haven't already, please give a 5-star written review on your favorite podcast platform, or even screenshot this episode and send it to your golf buddies. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you on the first tee in a couple days.